And we're down to 14. This is where good becomes great and great becomes legendary. Amir, it's playoff time, baby. Let's get into it. Last week, of course, to close off the season, week 18, I was 12-4, Amir 13-3. It would have been tied, but I changed my pick last minute to Minnesota, and we know how that turned out. But on the year, we're both 70% or correct or more, right? So this is the channel to come to your picks for straight up money lines. But let's get into it here, man. The first playoff game this weekend, we have a game on Saturday, Sunday, and of course, we close off the week with a Monday night game there in LA. But the first game has an LA team as well. It's the Chargers. Man, look, the last time Herbert made the playoffs, it was a crazy ending to that Jacksonville game where Jacksonville came back down 20. Not that that has to do with anything with this game, but hey, it's his second crack at it. He can get back in the good graces here as far as his playoff resume. But they're on the road. They're favored by 3, according to the books. Now, I will say this as far as the stats on the screen at the bottom, that is points per game for offense and points allowed per game. So the Chargers are a top 11 offense as far as points per game, and they are the number one defense, Amir, as far as points allowed per game. So they bring that talented group to Houston, to a team that has been struggling, right? No Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell, and it just seems like if they can't get the running game going, it's a very predictable offense there in Houston. But of course, Jim Harbaugh makes his return to the NFL playoffs. He has won 5 games in his career back when he was with San Francisco. Amir, I'm going to go with the Chargers on the road here. I think that pass rush bothers CJ Stroud, and I think that offense making minimal mistakes like they do. They're going to run the football, and I think they're going to win this game. Now, I think you can make an argument who has the better quarterback. I think it's a slight edge to Justin Herbert. So I'm going to go Herbert, and I'm going to roll with the road team here, and they're favored by 3. I think they even cover. Amir, it's going to be an ugly game. Where do you, I guess, lie here for this first playoff matchup?
I'm going with the road team, the Chargers as well. And me and you both have been bringing up the whole entire year. If this Texans team isn't getting the run game going or relying on Nico Collins, the offense is so predictable. It's honestly crazy. And Stroud's really been struggling to really spread the ball around to his other guys. Like if he's not throwing a huge to Nico or just kind of like looking at him first read, he's really struggling. And this Chargers team that honestly has less talent has been way better coached, way better defensively. Somebody has to freaking follow around Ladd because he's going to torch them. And so I'm taking the better coach team, the better offense that has better play calling, in my opinion, by far, and the better defense. I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah, and now again, you can also go back to the argument of, hey, both these quarterbacks, though has more NFL experience than Justin Herbert,
Yep.
CJ Stroud has more playoff success. We
It's crazy.
doubted CJ Stroud in this team last year in the first round, and then they went and hung up 45 on our Cleveland Browns and the number one defense in the league. So CJ Stroud, it's hard to doubt him, especially when it matters most. Usually you want to go with the more talented quarterback, but again, a lot of signs are pointing to LA should take care of business on the road here to go on to probably face the Arrowhead, or I guess, again, Kansas City Chiefs and Arrowhead. You guys get the picture. But let's go over to an AFC North matchup here between the Steelers on the road against Baltimore. It's a 9.5-point spread. And typically, Amir, in the betting world, when Mike Tomlin's an underdog, especially when he's given 9.5 points, you
It's a
want to
lot of
take that
points.
bet, right? Because he usually finds a way, no matter if it's ugly or pretty, he finds a way to get the job done. However, these teams met a couple weeks ago. Granted, no George Pickens, and the Ravens blew the Steelers out. They won by 2 or 3 scores. Now, I will say that John Harbaugh comes into this matchup in this playoffs, Amir, as the second most winningest head coach in this year's playoffs, with 12 playoff wins and, of course, a Super Bowl about a decade ago. Now, Mike Tomlin also has 8 playoff wins and a Super Bowl in his own right with Russell Wilson, Amir. So this is the only they're one of the 3 teams here, the Pittsburgh Steelers, that have both a Super Bowl winning head coach and a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I kind of said that backwards, but you guys get the picture. It's the Steelers, Rams, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs. Only 3 teams that have the 2 most important positions with players that have won at the highest level. But the Steelers come to this matchup. I just think that their offense is very predictable. It's an Arthur Smith-led group. Say that 10 times fast. And I just think the Ravens take care of business. I think they're on a business trip this year. And I think Lamar, he's going to be pissed off he doesn't get his 3rd MVP, but he gets a big time win to kick off this playoff run, Amir. What say you?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to take Pittsburgh to cover the points, but Baltimore wins this game. And you brought up an amazing point. You give Mike Tomlin plus 9.5. If you're in the betting world, take that plus 9.5. But I'm taking Baltimore. This Steelers defense has been really disappointing these past about 5 to 6 weeks. They really had a major drop off from the start of the year. And me and you brought this up the entire offseason. That second half gauntlet of the schedule is catching up to them. Playing the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Ravens, playing like six divisional games, something crazy like that. And so, it's really catching up to them. And I think for this Baltimore offense, I mean, really, they can score on anybody. My only concern is that Zay Flowers is out, so that might slow the pass game up a tiny bit. But it's like when you have Derrick Henry, he could fall for a game 4 to 5 yards every time. You can easily chew clock, run the football, and honestly, Baltimore controls this game from start to finish.
By the way, out of all the 14-team playoff teams, stick with me here. Baltimore has the best record out of every team in the playoffs as far as record versus other playoff teams. They are 7-3 this year. Kansas City would have had the best record at 8-1, but of course they rested their guys week 18 against the Denver Broncos. But the Baltimore Ravens have 7 wins against the teams in this year's playoffs. So they are battle tested and they are able to win these big time games. I think they start off here at home with a big one. Now, moving on to the Sunday slate, Amir, the Broncos, they got into the playoffs, whether it was pretty or not, right, against backups there in Kansas City, but they can't control who's in front of them. They just can control, hey, our win-loss record. So they went out there, handled business, and convincingly against the Kansas City backups, and they are now in the playoffs. 8.5-point spread, and the Buffalo Bills, Amir, are 8-0 at home this season with a top 2 offense here in Buffalo. So home crowd behind them. You're 13-4. Likely you have the first-time MVP in Josh Allen leading the group. And I mean, hey, outside of Denver having a top 3 defense, there's not many things that favor Denver here in this matchup. So interested just to see the matchup of Buffalo's offense versus Denver's defense. But I think Buffalo rolls here pretty easily, Amir. I think Josh Allen has a lot to prove in this playoff run, and he gets it started here with a win over Denver.
Yeah, the one thing people tend to get misconstrued is that Josh Allen is not performing in the playoffs. He is going to ball this playoff run, win or lose. I think he wins this game outright. I would say 8.5. For the way Denver has looked, that spread might be a bit close or like a bit big. I would say, yeah. But Buffalo wins at home here. I mean, this Broncos defense is ranked third, but like we've seen them be vulnerable at some major moments throughout the season. And so I think Buffalo controls this game.
Yeah, by the way, both of these teams are below 500 against other playoff teams this year. Buffalo is 2-3 against teams that are currently in the playoffs, and that includes a win over Kansas City. So they're 1-3 against everybody else. And Denver's 2-5, one of the worst teams in this year's playoffs against other playoff teams. So I bring that stat up because it's the best of the best, and Denver and Buffalo they're both below 500 in that metric. But again, like we said, Buffalo should take care of business. Now, Amir, this one was hard for me to pick because I think the quarterback advantage and maybe even the head coaching advantage go into a team that is the underdog in this matchup on the road into the Green Bay Packers. Of course, a spread of 4.5, but this is just not the same Philadelphia Eagles team that we've seen the last couple of years. They are better than ever. They are healthier than ever. Outside of, Jalen Hurts, he's been banged up, but he's going to be back for this game. And this is a team that is 14-3 on the season. They're 8-1 at home. They have a top 10 offense and defense, one of the few teams in this year's playoffs that can say that. I just, with Jordan Love recently being banged up with his injury, they lost their ex-number 1 wide receiver in Christian Watson. I honestly, Amir, I think this gets ugly. I think Philadelphia wins by probably 2 or 3 scores. And again, they're 5-1 this year against other playoff teams. So Philadelphia, too much is in their favor. I think they come out with a point to prove, and they get a big-time win, probably by 2 scores, as much as that pains me to say about the Green Bay Packers. But, Amir, your thoughts on this NFC matchup?
Yeah, earlier this season, Philly straight up smoked Green Bay before they really even hit their full stride, the first game of the season. And Philly, I don't know what they did defensively, but they just flipped it around quick. And honestly, the only reason why they even ranked second, stat-wise, is simply because Philly kind of started the year off slow defensively. But, like, on all 3 levels, they're elite. The D-line is crazy. The run defense is crazy. The pass defense has been lights out. And I'm with you on this. This game really might get ugly, so I'm taking Philly.
Yeah, it's pretty chalk so far. But, again, a lot of these things, sometimes, again, 2 + 2 just equals 4. And and the team that's favored is probably going to win in these big time games. But I will throw this out there, Amir. Last year, the first and the only 7th seed to ever win an NFL playoff game was the Green Bay Packers. They were favored, or they were underdogs by 4.5 last year, too, against the Dallas Cowboys, and they just went out there and dominated the Cowboys on the road. Am I saying that it's likely? No, but I will give the Packers a fighter's chance here in this matchup. But again, Philly looks like the most dominant team in football, at least as of the last month. Now, this is probably the most 50-50 matchup this weekend. This and, of course, the Chargers game. But the 6 seed Commanders shocked the world this year, Amir. 12-5, 5-3 on the road with a rookie quarterback, by the way. Top 5 offense in the league. Probably the offensive player or rookie of the year in Jaden Daniels. On the road to play a team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the 2nd year in a row have snuck into the playoffs. Now, of course, Jaden Daniels comes into this matchup with no playoff experience, whereas Baker, he's been there a couple times before, 2 playoff wins in his career. Now, Amir, I will say this. By the way, one of those Baker Mayfield wins were a magical Cleveland Browns win a couple years back. But last year, we looked at C.J. Stroud and the Texans, and we said, well, the difference is going to be his experience. That's why he's not going to win this game. And then he came out and, again, put up 45 points in his debut in the playoffs. So, I'll say this. Jaden Daniels just looks different, right? He doesn't look like your average rookie quarterback, just like C.J. Stroud didn't. Do you give Washington any chance in this game on the road against a team that, look, it's going to be an offensive shootout? Do you think he could favor Washington here?
So, as much as I love Baker, the way Baker plays sometimes, being gunslinger, happy turning the ball over, could very well give Washington, a big time chance. And the fact that this Bucs defense is absolutely terrible. So, Jay Downs in his offense, really has the opportunity to really take this game. But in my opinion, I'm still leaning towards Tampa Bay. I mean, this year the Commanders are 1-6 against playoff teams. They struggle big time against playoff teams, and really, I mean, the only team they beat was Philly without Jalen Hurts, and they still barely won. And honestly, if you go back and look at that game, I think Jay Downs threw for 5 touchdowns, but he still made some big time mistakes that still almost lost in that game. And so, the Commanders are 12-5, but I think, in my honest opinion, I think on the road in this first playoff game, I think Tampa Bay wins this game.
I think honestly, if you're betting on this game, just bet the over because 2 top 5 offenses, 2 secondaries on both teams that are honestly very subpar. And I'll say, I mean, the front sevens on both teams are good. It's the secondaries that's it's a really big flaw on both teams, and that's where I think it could be fireworks here in this early wild card weekend. But good stat to throw out there. Tampa Bay is 4-3 against playoff teams this year. That's actually top 5 as far as percentage wise. So Tampa Bay and Baker, they come to play. The problem is they're not underdogs here. When Baker's a favorite, he typically plays worse. But again, playoff time, both teams should lock in, and it should be a high-scoring affair, right? Hopefully, at least here for our playoff viewers. Again, that's going to take place on Sunday night. Now, the Monday night game, Amir, it's mentor versus mentee. It's a coach that, in Sean McVay, that has 7 playoff wins compared to Kevin O'Connell's 0. Sean McVay has been to the playoffs multiple times. Kevin O'Connell this would be his 2nd appearance. Of course, Sean McVay has the Super Bowl. Kevin O'Connell doesn't even have a win. Amir, yet again, with all those stats I just threw out at you, Minnesota's favored on the road here. The only team to have 14 wins in a single season and are still not a number 1 seed. They are, of course, the 5 seed. So the first ever team to do that as well. They are a better road team than the Rams are home team. And I think the Vikings fans travel very well. And they're going to travel to this game. And it's going to be a 50-50 split here in this stadium here at SoFi. Amir, top 10 offense and defense for the Vikings. The Rams, they've struggled all year. We haven't really found a consistent version of this team. But for some odd reason, Amir, I like the Rams here. But I think if I'm betting on it, I'm going with the Vikings, which will be my official pick. But we talked about it before the pod. I think the Rams have a really good chance to pull off an upset here.
Yeah, this Rams team is a perfect example of having really watched the games because, from a casual lens, right? If I'm a casual fan, I'm looking at these numbers and I'm seeing they have the 20th ranked offense and 17th ranked defense. In my mind, I'm gonna think they're gonna lose, but you gotta really watch this Rams team to really see that this is a great football team. This Rams team, I say outside of the last week, since they Rest of Puka, Stafford, all those guys. I mean, they won 5 out of 6 games, and, and
Yes.
and the only loss was against Philly. And so, this Rams offense has been striving. The defense has been playing way, way better. And if you're betting on the total points, I think it's at 47.5. Bet the under because I think the Rams are going to control the clock here. I'm still going to lean towards Minnesota, but I'm not confident in it because I really think highly of the Rams, and it could really be a repeat of earlier this season where Donald struggled against Sean McVay, and the Rams ended up stealing that game. But
Yeah.
I'm going to take Minnesota by not much, and I might end up switching it.
Yeah, again, I might switch my pick as well, but interesting stat to throw out there. Out of the 14 teams that are in this year's playoffs, there's 5 Super Bowl winning head coaches: Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, and Sean McVay. Now, from that list, you'll notice only one of those 5 coaches are in the NFC, and of course, as far as the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, the only one is Matt Stafford. So this team knows what it takes to win at the highest level. To me, they have the second best coach in the league in Sean McVay. If I had to start a franchise today, I've had the same answer for years now. It would be Sean McVay to lead the charge. Again, at home, we'll keep you guys updated in the comment section, but honestly, I might switch my pick to the Rams as well. We'll have to see. We could be bamboozled like we were last year, where you guys know at home we fell in love with the Rams, and they of course got bounced in the first round. But here is our picks as of now. We'll keep you guys updated in the comments section. But Saturday we have the Chargers and the Ravens. Excuse me, both Harbaugh brothers winning on that Saturday. On Sunday, we have all chalk, all the favorites winning there, and the same as Monday. So sometimes, again, 2 + 2 = 4, and you don't have to overcomplicate things. But again, there's games like the Commanders game, or even, hey, the Chargers and Houston game, or the Rams and Vikings game, where we might change our picks. So again, for the third time, we'll let you know down below. But Amir wanted to do this here for the show today, and that's why we kind of went through those matchups quickly. We're going to go through our bracket here. So not only are we going to give you our first round picks, which you already know, on the NFC side, we have the favorites. And this would be the projected second round matchups where the Vikings and the Lions, of course, would have a rubber match there. And the Buccaneers and the Eagles, they seemingly match up every single year in the playoffs. So they get to match up once more. Now, on the left side of the bracket in the AFC, here are our picks. We would have the Ravens and Bills and the Chargers and the Chiefs. Of course, divisional matchup there as well. Now, when Amir and I both filled out our brackets for those at home, we had one game that we had different in our entire brackets. So that's why you're seeing a combined bracket here where let's start in that Chiefs matchup, Amir. Of course, it's miles different between the Chiefs and everybody else. Andy Reid has 26 playoff wins in his career. The next highest is John Harbaugh with 12. He has 3 Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes does as well. Patrick Mahomes has 15 career playoff wins, Amir. The next closest is Russell Wilson with 9. He's in this stratosphere now of Tom Brady, right? He's in that upper echelon where, honestly, when we rank quarterbacks in the offseason, I'm not even going to have Mahomes on the list because he's just that much better to me than everybody else. He needs to be in these other conversations. And he now has a chance where, sure, at the end of his career, he might not have 7 Super Bowl rings like Tom Brady, but he has a chance, Amir, to do something that Tom Brady never did, or anybody for that matter, winning 3 straight Super Bowls. We're both going to roll with the Chiefs in that matchup, Amir, but I will say this. This is going to sound crazy too, so hear me out. I think out of any team in the AFC, I think the Chargers have the best chance to beat the Chiefs, Amir. I think, again, you've played them incredibly tough 2 times this season. You protect the football really, really well. You can get after the passer, which we know the offensive line has always been questionable for the Chiefs. And this is a Chiefs team that at this point in time in the divisional round would have their guys rested for 3 weeks. So they might come into this game slow. I think, honestly, I'm more confident that the Chargers beat them than the teams below them. Is that crazy to say?
It's not crazy to say at all. I mean, it's tough to beat a team, twice, let alone 3 times. And that's why, it's even tough for me to pick Detroit over Minnesota, man. Like, it's tough to beat a team 3 times, in your division especially. That's why, I've brought up earlier in the show that, it's tough for Baltimore to smoke Pittsburgh by 10 plus points. It's tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, then here in the bottom left, surprisingly, because I never hyped this team up, but this is the only game that we have a difference on. Amir, you went with Buffalo. I went with the Ravens. And next week, I think if this stands true, I might roll with the Ravens as well. It's just a
Yeah.
feeling that I have.
Yeah.
Lamar,
Me
again,
too.
this is the battle of MVP 1 and MVP 2, right? The MVP winner and the runner up, no matter who wins the award. Honestly, I think right now Josh Allen is going to get it, even though statistically Lamar probably deserves it. Regardless, I think Lamar is going to be the runner up, and I think he's going to come into this game pissed off. I think this year, one of these quarterbacks needs to get over that hump to finally end the stigma around their playoff careers. I think it's going to be Lamar. I think Lamar is going to win this game on the road. They're going to have Zay Flowers back for that one. Honestly, it might be a crazy take, but I have the Ravens winning. But for the sake of argument and for the sake that I think it can go either way, Amir, I had the Bills advancing, right? Because I don't think it's going to matter for either of us in the AFC
Mm.
title game.
It
But your
won't
thoughts
matter.
there? How much of a chance do you think the Ravens actually have to win that one, even though you have the Bills winning?
I'm gonna be completely honest. I keep on saying it. I don't know how the Bills are 13-4 in the second seed. This team really doesn't have much talent, and I completely understand that sometimes less is more. But I
Sometimes
kind
you
of have
need
this.
that extra to get you over the
Right.
top.
Right. It gets to a point where it's like, when a team like Baltimore is just way more talented than you, it's really tough to beat a team like that, man. Especially, stop that offense with Derrick Henry and that O line. And,
Yeah.
for me, I'm going to lean towards the Bills. But, man, like this week, we're really like, let me know, who's
Right.
going to win the game. And,
Right.
and based off this week, I can go in the next week completely unbiased, and you know, it will be really, really tough for me to really pick against Baltimore if they go out and just completely smoke Pittsburgh.
Right, right. Again, tough matchup there, and we'll talk about it next week. Who knows? We might even have an upset. Like we'll have the Steelers win their game, and we won't even have that conversation. But in the NFC side of things, we're gonna have the Lions winning that third matchup. They're gonna sweep the Minnesota Vikings, even though that's incredibly hard to do. They just fight, right? They just continue to find a way to fight. I think right now it's a key week for them to get healthy. And there's a report that Carlton Davis might even be back for this divisional round. So you have Monty return to the lineup. You had Anzalone return to the lineup recently, and Carlton Davis for this game. You're at home. Golf plays way better at home than on the road. We're rolling with Detroit in that one. And then also, again, Amir, it seems like these teams match up every single year, at least since Brady showed up to Philly. They matched up. Of course, Brady got a big win there against Philly when Jalen Hurts was his rookie year. And then last year they matched up and Tampa Bay got a huge upset win in the first round against the Philadelphia Eagles. But we're going to roll with Philly in that one. Again, it's a different team here in Philadelphia. Any chance you think Tampa Bay can win that one?
I don't think so at all. They won the game early in the season when Devontae Smith and AJ Brown was out. But other than that, I think Philly blows Tampa Bay
Yeah.
out bad.
Yeah, I think we go into this NFC title game where even though they might be the road team, we might be saying that we might see Philly actually be favored in this game here against the Detroit Lions. But Amir, who would you give the edge to? Detroit at home to go to the first ever Super Bowl in franchise history, or the Eagles to return to the top of the mountain and to try and knock off one of these teams in the AFC?
This game will be a crazy game. And I would want to highlight too is that realistically, in my opinion, there's only two to possibly three teams. If you want to argue Minnesota that can really beat Philly, and that's
Right.
Detroit and Kansas City. And so for Detroit, they kind of match Philly's play style: running the football, stop the run, create turnovers. Those three things. Like if you win a turnover battle, stop the run and run the football on teams. You have a great chance at winning. For me, I'm going to lean towards Philly just because I've seen Philly dominate these top tier run defenses, which is what the Lions kind of thrive on. The Lions kind of play like a tunnel type of defense. They blitz a lot, stop the run, give up big plays in the pass game. And for me, um, I just think Philly advances, man. Like this Philly team is really great. I don't see any team in the NFC really stopping them. I really don't.
Yeah. Now, I gave you the advantage in the Buffalo Ravens game, but Amir, I want the Lions to win this game badly, right? I want the Lions to be able to not only get over that hump from last year where they were at this point and they get it done because of their decision making. But I want Detroit to go to their first ever Super Bowl in franchise history and have a chance to win it all because this was ultimately both of our Super Bowl picks before the season. It's not likely that it really will ever happen again. So I want Detroit to get it over. So I gave you the edge in the Buffalo Bills in the Ravens game. I'm going to give myself the edge here with the Lions to go to their first ever Super Bowl in franchise history. But also, I can easily see the Eagles blowing out every team in this year's playoffs, including the team we have going to the Super Bowl in the Kansas City Chiefs. Amir, this would be a battle of the best team in the league in the Kansas City Chiefs chasing history versus a team that is just happy to be there for one, but they're trying to get their first ever Super Bowl in the Detroit Lions. So it's a first of many for the Lions in this one. They would, of course, have Jared Goff, who has been a good playoff performer. He has 4 playoff wins in his career. If he makes it to this point, he would have 7 wins to his career. And, of course, versing Mahomes in this game. Last time these teams really played, it was a shootout. And, of course, we all remember that Monday night shootout between Jared Goff and Mahomes back in, 2017, where they put up well over 100 points. Amir,
Last
in this
year
matchup,
too.
though, would you have history being made for the Chiefs or for the Lions?
Well, I mean, really last year, I mean, they played two week one,
Yes, yes.
and Detroit won. But, it's always an asterisk on that game. But, I fell into the mistake last year. I'm not doing it again. I'm taking Kansas City three-peat. I predicted this early in the year. I think the Chiefs three-peat. And seeing them last year they dominated the Dolphins, and they went and beat the Bills.
Yep.
I didn't beat the Ravens, and I didn't beat San Fran. Like that right there was one of the greatest playoff runs I've ever seen from a team that had lackluster talent offensively. And this year, Hollywood Brown has been great. You got D Hop, you got Pacheco back. The defense is still amazing, and really, I don't see any team beat Mahomes. Like I think in the Super Bowl, like the Chiefs' black magic is going to be on full display.
Yeah, I mean, they would have a chance to do something again that nobody's ever done. And, again, I always say that sometimes less is more with some teams, right? We see the Chargers and the Bills, teams like that, they don't necessarily have the most talented rosters, but they're finding a way to get it done, and they're not overcomplicating things. But this,
Yeah.
last year we saw that with the Chiefs. We said if they can get it done with that offense, then Mahomes is immediately going to be in the GOAT conversations. They did it. And now they have just so much talent that it's overbearing, I think, for other teams, kind of like Philadelphia in the NFC side of things. I think Mahomes gets it done. I think he knows what's on the line. And unless he gets in his own head, they can win this game. And he can do something that no other player has ever done. That is our 2024 playoff predictions, 2024-2025, as of right now. Now, next week, of course, we'll go round by round and give you guys every prediction that we have. Now, heading into Wildcard weekend, Amir, these are power rankings. There's 14 teams left remaining, and we're going to rank all 14 based on how likely we think they are to win the Lombardi Trophy. But let's get into it here. At the bottom of our list, now, with this, we take in experience from your key players. We take in just, hey, your path. How likely are you to, complete your path to go and win the Super Bowl? For the Broncos, it's not likely for either of us. They would have to beat Buffalo on the road. Then they'd have to go to Arrowhead on the road. And then you'd have to beat probably Baltimore in the AFC title game. It's not likely. And again, they're going to be a tough team here in the first round. And I think, hey, they've had an incredible season. Sean Payton's done a great job of turning them around. But we have them at 14, and for you, 13. Now, this is a big disparity in our list. And honestly, I meant to have Washington at 9. Regardless, this is a team that is coming into the playoffs with going to be the rookie of the year in Jaden Daniels. And, of course, a head coach that in Dan Quinn, he's gotten to the Super Bowl before, Amir. And I don't think they win this weekend. And if you don't win this weekend, I can't really have you any higher. And I can't imagine you winning more games down the line. So any thoughts on these two teams here? Amir, 2 teams, 2 rookie quarterbacks. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm being completely honest. Defense wins championships, and I think what Denver's doing, performing at the heights that they are with lackluster offensive talent, while also having an elite defense, a top tier defense. I think Denver is noticeably better than Washington. And and when I made my rankings, I literally made them based off of which team I think has a better chance. And so in my eyes, the power rankings in the regular season goes out the window. All that stuff goes out the window.
Right. Thank you.
And so, this Washington team, in my opinion, is the worst team in this entire playoff run.
To me, I think the difference is that they have an offense that can compete with the Tampa Bay. Then they go to Detroit. They have an offense that can compete with the Detroit offense. Again, I just don't know if that secondary of Washington is going to be able to hold up when it matters most in those big time games. But that is, of course, they're in the bottom half of the list for a reason. Now, the Texans, for me, again, if I don't think you have a chance to win this weekend, you're going to be at the bottom of the list. This is one of the most talked about games in the Texans and the Chargers, but I think the Chargers win that one. So obviously, I don't think the Texans, with all the injuries that they've had, can beat the Chargers, then go beat the Chiefs, then go beat the Bills in the AFC title game. I don't think that's going to happen for the Houston Texans. So they're at 13 for me, but you're a little bit higher. Is that just simply for the fact that they have CJ Stroud?
Yeah, and for me, I have this feeling that like Houston might be able to just like turn it around, for some reason, or
Yes.
not turn it around,
I mean,
but
they
play
got the
better.
quarterback.
Right, play better, and like for me, I just think that that they're better than every team underneath them. I do have them losing this weekend though to a team that's underneath them, but I just think they're better, and I just think that the team that they're going to lose to this weekend, the Chargers, like it's more so just based off the fact that that's a feeling I have, with the
Yes.
Chargers.
I mean, again, when you have CJ Stroud, and last year we doubted them, they proved us all wrong, and this year the world's against them again. So maybe they do the same thing in 2025. And number 12 for the both of us is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've lost four straight. The offense has become very predictable, as we all predicted, with Arthur Smith running the offense. But I guess their saving grace here, Amir, they are one of the three teams in this year's NFL playoffs that have a Super Bowl winning coach and quarterback in Wilson and Mike Tomlin. So they know what it takes to win. It's a veteran group, but I just don't think that they have enough to beat Baltimore, let alone and beat the top teams in the AFC, and let alone get to the Super Bowl. So they're at number 12 for me, Amir. Any additional thoughts about Pittsburgh?
No thoughts.
At nine, well, again, we're going to combine these two teams because I think they're similar stories. Good front sevens on defense, high-powered, exciting offenses, but the secondaries are in question for teams
Yeah.
like the Rams and, of course, the Tampa Bay Bucks. They're going to be fun. They're going to put up a fight. But to me, Amir, I don't think either of these teams have favorable paths to make a deep run in again to win the Lombardi Trophy. I think there's only six teams that can realistically do that. So that's why Tampa Bay's at 9. I think they have an easier path because they would have a home game in that stretch compared to the Rams. Who, again, they have a home game, but we know SoFi Stadium is usually split with the opposing team's fans coming in. Amir, your thoughts on the Rams and the Tampa Bay Bucks? Can Matt Stafford and them get back to the top of the mountain, or maybe Baker can shock the world?
Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I've grown to be a big time McVay guy, just like you. And
Yes.
realistically, I will move them higher, but the teams that's over them is just like way better teams in my opinion.
Yeah.
For me, for Tampa Bay, I have this top because this offense is just so high powered, like way too hard to stop. But like I mean, their defense is so bad, like it's
Yes.
crazy. Like every game might be like 40 to like 37. Like seriously, like the defense is that bad to the point where it's like they can't get any stops, and Baker has to play perfect. And so I have them at that 10 spot.
At 10 for me and 11 for you are two teams that I was honestly shocked that both of us had them where we had them. And again, this goes back to the fact that I don't think this team wins this weekend. I have the Green Bay Packers and my favorite quarterback and player in the league, and Jordan Love, at number 10 because he's banged up. They lost their number one wide receiver, and honestly, I don't think they have a chance to beat Philly. So why even bother? I guess think that they have a chance down the line. Amir, you have the Chargers at 11. Why do you have them there, with the mistake-free football that they play?
This Chargers team plays really well, but it's the same thing with Buffalo. Like it gets to a point where it's like, it's a completely different era of football. I always say defense wins championships, and the stats prove it. But like you got to have a really high power offense to kind of counter against that, and all these offenses that are over them are just so high powered to where it's like, when it gets to a moment where so they have to get stops. The defense is under so much pressure. It's going to be really hard to compete against these.
All right, moving into the top 7. Honestly, I think these are the last teams where, to me, I don't think they really have a chance to go and win it all. They might win a game or two, but they don't really have a chance, to me, to raise the Lombardi Trophy. But at 7 is the Chargers for their play style. Amir, they have a Super Bowl, I guess, apparent head coach in Jim Harbaugh, who has returned, and hey, he came back and led this team directly to the playoffs. They just don't turn the ball over. They play good defense. They can get after the passer. And like I talked about earlier, I think out of any team in the AFC, just due to the fact that they are division rivals, they have the best team to beat the Chiefs in the second round of the playoffs. But I have them at number seven. Amir, you have Green Bay and company. Why do you have them at seven despite all their injuries?
So I have Green Bay at 7. That's because last year they showed that I'm really high on Matt LaFleur. I think he's a great coach. Great play caller. Jordan Love is a great quarterback. The run game is good. The pass game is good. The defense, creates turnovers. And so for me, I just think that this team is a better, well-rounded team than the teams underneath them.
Yeah.
I don't have much confidence in them really because I brought up to you earlier before the show, so where it's like this team runs. Like let Jordan Love throw the ball around, let him air it out, let him play freely, and just be him. But I think that this team simply just like is just like a few steps behind teams above them,
Again,
but
I
not much
completely
though.
can understand that. Now, at 5 and 6, we have the same teams but flipped. But let's say they have one common thing, and that is that they wear purple. So again, I have the Ravens at 5 and the Vikings at 6. Now, I failed to mention this earlier, Amir, but the Vikings are looking to shock the world, right? Sam Darnold had zero playoff career wins, and Kevin O'Connell, same thing. He has zero playoff career wins. So they're looking to not only get that monkey off of their back, but to shock the world and kind of make a deeper run, despite being a 14-win team. But again, I think Baltimore, I'm very confident on them this year. As you saw earlier, I think they're the biggest threat to Kansas City overall in the AFC as far as who can make it to the Super Bowl. And I have them at number 5, despite one team being above them. But I think for the simple fact that the Ravens have a tougher wild card game than the team above them is why they're at number 5 and not number 4. Amir, your thoughts about the Vikings at 5 and Ravens at 6 for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. These two teams are really just like for me, I had them at 5. The Vikings because the Vikings are such a well-rounded team on both sides of the ball. That's like you have two head coaching minds put together. Kevin O'Connell and Flores. Two great minds, and then you pair that with a great receiving core, run game and O line, with a great defense all around. And so I have Minnesota at 5 because this playoff run we might see Flores and Kevin O'Connell pull out some crazy stuff.
Yes.
Crazy, defensive pressures and stunts, and offensively some crazy, passing concepts and stuff like that. And so I have Minnesota at 5 for that reason.
Yeah, again, for the Ravens, it's only their secondary. But if Kyle Hamilton is healthy and he's playing, he can cover up for a lot of the flaws in that secondary. But outside of that, we know what Baltimore brings to the table. They're going to be fun, but Lamar needs to get out of his own head. And number 4, again, I think they have an easier path, and that kind of plays into a part of these rankings where if these teams were to match up in the second round, the Bills and the Ravens, I could see the matchup going either way. So for the simple fact that I think Denver is an easier game in the first round than Pittsburgh, right? Especially being a divisional matchup for the Ravens, I have the Bills above them. Now, the Bills have had an incredible season. I would have loved them to get Kincaid the ball a little bit more, but incredible season from them. And I think with their mistake-free style of football, they're going to have a chance to go at this thing. Amir, your thoughts? You have them at number 3.
Yeah, I have them at 3. I'm going to be honest, though, like, the more I think about it, the team I have underneath them should probably be over them. But this Buffalo team is at 3. I'm going to be honest. I'm still not super confident in them because, I keep on saying it. Like they really have holes in their roster, and the defense has been progressively, declining. But Buffalo has proved me wrong time and time again. And so I'll have them at 3 because, I'm done just like this completely just underrating this team. And also, I'm high on Josh Allen in the playoffs when it matters most. I know for him, he's going to throw for 300 or 350 and 3 touchdowns. But can the defense hold up?
Yeah. Despite having the third most playoff career wins by a quarterback in the league today, or again, in this year's playoffs, he has not been to the Super Bowl, right? Let alone win it. So he's
crazy.
Getting the wins. He's getting to the point. He's just not getting over the hump. And a large part of that could be due to Patrick Mahomes, being Patrick Mahomes. At number 3, I have the Eagles, arguably the most complete team in football. You have them at number 2. This is the reason why, Amir. It is the extra game factor. The Eagles,
Yeah.
look, I don't think that the Packers really have a chance in the first round, but there's a chance someone could get injured, right? Or hey, maybe the Packers pull off in a crazy upset, which we saw them do last year in the first round for the simple fact that they are going to have an extra game than the Detroit Lions, and they're also going to have to be on the road, most likely in the NFC title game, is the reason why I have the Lions above them. Again, I look at these teams are on the same tier for me, but I think one has an easier path on paper, and that is to me the Detroit Lions. But Amir, the most complete team in football, a historic season from Saquon Barkley, and they have a quarterback in Jalen Hurts going to come back into the mix, who is just another dynamic for this offense. Your thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, this team is the most complete team of football on both sides of the ball from top to bottom. And this team really has no holes in their roster, like no holes at all, really.
Yeah.
The D line is amazing. And I keep on preaching that secondary has hit a major incline. I mean, Cooper DeJean has been amazing.
He was 180 from the start of the season.
Right. And absolutely insane. Mitchell has been great. Slay has been great. And so, this team, my only concern is Jalen Hurts. I'm not a big Jalen Hurts guy, but I'm not going to forget. A couple years ago, Jalen Hurts played great in the playoffs. He actually played amazing. He took care of the football. Ran the ball. Then once he got to that big game against KC, he played absolutely amazing. So, I feel he at two for that reason.
Yeah. Now, again, for the reasons that I stated earlier, I just to add on to the fact that I like the Detroit Lions, Montgomery and Amon Ra are two of my favorite players in the league. So that is also playing a factor into it. But I want to see the Lions get there, right? Get their first at least Super Bowl appearance, let alone if they win it or not. Just getting there, I think, would be huge for the city and, of course, for the franchise in general. But no shocker here, 26 playoff wins by Andy Reid, 15 by Patrick Mahomes, 3 Super Bowls between the two, and they're looking to do something that no team has ever done, including Tom Brady, winning 3 straight Super Bowls. No shocker, we have Kansas City at 1. Last year, less was more. This year, they just have too damn much. Amir, your thoughts on Kansas City at 1?
Yeah, I mean, it's just straight black magic at this point. Like it's like a cycle. I mean, Kansas City is going to win it all again, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This team is just miles more talented than they were last year. Mahomes, can go ahead and throw 20 picks in the regular season. I'm still going to pick him. We could literally watch Kelsey drop 20 passes in the regular season. I guarantee, first game they play, it's going to be how last year when they matched up against Baltimore. And then Kelsey literally had 11 targets and caught all of them. It's going to be the same exact way this year.
Yeah, I think last year we saw that flip where all of a sudden they weren't really targeting Kelsey, and then he's going to getting 13, 14 targets a game. We're going to see Kelsey turn up yet again. I think they're going to use Worthy and Hollywood Brown for these shot plays, maybe some jet sweeps or some flashy plays, but this is where Kelsey's going to take over yet again. And this team's going to be raising that Lombardi here in just about a month's time. Now, Wildcard best bets on the week. Every single week, we give you guys our favorite player props, spread pick, and over-under on that given week. Now, on the year, Amir and I are about 65 to 70% correct rate on all of our picks, and that's dating back to very early in the season. I want to say week 4, week 5 that we started doing this for you guys. But let's get into it, where, to me, I'm going to start with a line of a quarterback here in the first round. And this is an under that has covered in 10 of the 15 games that he played this season. Now, I will say, on the flip side, he did have 278 passing yards in week number 1 in Brazil. We know that game was ugly for a lot of reasons, a lot of injuries. But I think Jalen Hurts, coming off of this concussion, he's been limited in practice. And on ESPN Bet, this is the biggest line that you can find by far, where it's about 5 or 6 yards different compared to most books. I'm going to go under here. I think this game is ugly. I think Philadelphia runs away with it. And I think it's a game where Jalen Hurts, doesn't have to use his arm so much, where him and Barkley are just going to dominate up front, and they're going to win this game, I want to say by 2 or 3 scores. So Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts, I think, roll, and I think Jalen Hurts doesn't need to use his arm to do so. He goes under 224.5 passing yards. But Amir, you have something over on Bet365. It looks like it's covering at a pretty good rate.
Yeah, so I have Marvin Mims over 39.5 receiving yards. I think for him, this is a perfect game for him to kind of not get the most attention. I think Cortland Sutton's going to be like the focal point, for Buffalo trying to stop. Denver's run game already is kind of underwhelming a bit. And so when you focus on Cortland Sutton it kind of makes your life easier. And so this is a perfect chance for Marvin Mims to take over. I mean, he's covered his last 6 out of 7 games, and he's been their best big play guy these past like 4 to 5 weeks or so. This is the perfect spot for him to cover.
Yeah, I mean, they should be playing from behind in that game. So again,
Yeah.
throwing the ball a little bit more, and he's in the slot a lot of his snaps. So he's going to get a lot of these targets. And again, he's averaging what 62 yards a game over the last 7. So he should cover this with ease. Now, Amir, my favorite, I guess, spread pick on the week is I'm going back to the well. I think the Eagles cover the 4.5 spread against Green Bay. They're at home.
Pick.
They won by 15 in week number 1. Now, again, a lot of injuries, and Jordan Love got hurt in that game. Again, ugly game, but Philadelphia, to me, is going to run away with this. As big of a fan I am of Jordan Love, they just don't have enough to compete with maybe the most talented team in football. Philly starts off this playoff run with a statement victory. Now, Amir, you're going also on the NFC side of things, but which matchup are you focusing on?
Really, originally I was gonna take your pick. That's because like when J-Love got hurt in that game, like the game was already over.
Yes.
So he dominated that game. But I kind of wanted to mix it up here. In my opinion, I think Tampa Bay wins outright. I'm not gonna say with ease. I think the Commanders are gonna kind of stay in it early on, but I keep on saying it. This Washington team struggles against top tier talent, talented teams,
Yeah.
and this is going to be a shootout. But I mean, this Tampa Bay offense just has way too much. Mike Evans might go for 150. Jalen McMillan has been playing amazing. He might take over. Baker throw for at least. So TQB on the road his first playoff game. I think he loses to Tampa Bay with these.
Yeah, I mean, Washington is 1-4 on the year against other playoff teams this season. So again, they're not winning those big time games, and that only win, Amir, came against Philadelphia late in the season when they weren't even starting Jalen Hurts. So realistically, they shouldn't have won any game against the playoff team this season.
Yeah.
Of course, crazy comeback, I might add there at the end. There, they came all the way back and had that last second touchdown. But Jane Daniels, he can either come out like C.J. Stroud last year, or he can come out like every other rookie we've seen, which is very about average, and lose his first playoff game. Now, our favorite over-unders on the week, Amir, we share the same exact one, and I hated to do this for you guys at home, but this line to me was just way too good to pass up on. I got the line at under 47.5 points. You did as well over on DraftKings. Amir, I just think Buffalo's going to get up big early, and they're going to kind of coast. Denver's going to try and catch up, but due to the inexperience of the players, I don't think that they're going to come to play, and I think it's going to be probably like a 21-10 kind of a game where Buffalo wins outright. Amir, your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I'm with you on this. And this line is too high in my opinion. Like a 47.5. Like this line is like closer to like it's like a Tampa Bay versus like Commanders game
Yes,
in my opinion.
I agree.
Right, and so I mean, when you have two, one elite defense and one stout defense, this game is really just going to be kind of low scoring. Kind of like you mentioned, it might be like a 21-10 or like a 28-14 type game.
Yeah. Again, I think Buffalo rolls here. I think they take care of business, and Bo Nix might have some splash plays in his rookie debut, but of course he's not going to be able to get over the hump, or at least we don't think so. But that is our favorite bets on the week. Now, if your team sucks, this is your favorite segment of the show. This is going to be the last time we touch on this until this offseason, which draft coverage might come as soon as Pro Bowl week. So be on the lookout. I've already got my rankings and everything set up for you guys at home. But, again, Tennessee, after week 18, holds the rights. They hold the cards, and they have their choice at whichever player they want in this year's NFL draft. Likely going to be a quarterback, whether Shedeur Sanders or the reports say Cam Ward might be the odds-on favorite to go number 1. They are going to grab a quarterback. The Will Levis era is over there in Tennessee. Now, Cleveland at number 2, we're Browns fans. There's a lot of rumors going on about what we're going to do with this pick. Don't overthink it. Take your quarterback, and let's try and build for the future. Now, the Giants, they moved up here despite losing a couple weeks ago. They moved back up to 3, so good for them. They can potentially get a Shedeur Sanders, maybe if the Browns mess it up. Then of course, you have New England, who lost the number 1 pick after winning Week 18. Jacksonville at number 5. Some of those teams at the bottom might go after a Will Johnson, one of those offensive tackles to protect their quarterback, or maybe even a guy like Ted McMillan. Amir, your thoughts here. Now I'm going to ask you this. If you're Tennessee and you have the number 1 pick, are you going Cam Ward or are you going Shedeur Sanders? What are you doing going forward with that franchise?
Well, in my opinion, I keep on saying that I think Shador is the best QB in the draft. But I'm really high on Cam Ward. But it's like, for Tennessee, it's like they're in the spot where it's like, I mean, like they really have some, some solid pieces on offense. Like it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's like, like it's not good enough to the point where it's like if you bring in a young guy and try to play him right away, like he's gonna be set up for disaster. If the O line is bad, the run game can be underwhelming. Like you have Calvin Ridley, you have you know, like some decent
Yeah,
pieces
Nick
on offense.
Westbrook-Kenny as well. Chigo
Right,
Conklin.
yeah, right, right. And so I mean the defense is solid too, but it's like Tennessee really just I mean if I'm them, you go after a QB. Um, you know, I would say Cam Ward just because we kind of see it the worst. Like if the media is pushing a narrative for a guy to go to a certain place, he's going there. And,
Yeah.
and so I think Dion and Shador are pretty much set on forcing forcing him to New York at this point.
Yeah, again, I think that's probably the likely scenario. Now, would I like Shador or Cam Ward here in
Yeah.
Cleveland? Absolutely, right? To get a quarterback of that potential to go forward into the future with the talented team that we still have here in Cleveland, that would be awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen. So that's why I was going to ask you, do you think the Browns draft a Abdul Carter, an elite edge, by the way, to help out this defensive front? Or do you think that we trade down with New York or even maybe New England and grab a Travis Hunter's not coming to Cleveland. Let's clarify this. So what would you trade down and still probably try and grab an Abdul Carter at let's say 4 and pick up a first round pick for next year's draft? Or would you rather just stick and grab a quarterback?
So I'm gonna be honest. I 100% think Kirk is gonna be in Cleveland.
I agree. Unfortunately, I
I think
agree.
so too. And so for me, I mean, really, the Browns could really do like a can kind of go in like in so many different directions here. Like they can either draft a Cam Ward or even like a Dylan Gabriel, kind of similar to how the Falcons did last year,
Yes.
where they drafted Penix at 9, had Kirk, had Gabriel learn behind them, or they can even trade down, get a first round pick for next year's draft. They're really in a pretty interesting spot. They can even draft, Will Campbell or Will Johnson to kind of, stop
Yeah.
the O line up or the secondary on defense. And so, what I think Cleveland's going to do is, I think, we're definitely going to sign Kirk. I think we might end up trading down with New York and then drafting like a Dylan Gabriel or something.
Yeah, just to at least have an option. But
Yeah.
my thing here is, and I'll leave it on this. Hand Miles Garrett the phone, hand him the note card, hand him the phone number, whatever you got to do. Whatever he wants to get drafted, that's who we're gonna draft because I don't want to see that dude in another uniform. For one, it'd be scary, right, for us going forward, but it also would be very detrimental. So give Miles Garrett the keys. He can pick who we draft, and we'll go from there. But I think it's more likely we trade down and get an edge rather than draft Shador Sanders. I would love Cam Ward if he were to fall there as well. But
Yeah.
that's going to do it here for Wild Card Weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, no game tonight on Thursday, but Saturday the action starts. I will say, Amir, very quickly before we get out of here, who do you got tonight here, today and tomorrow? Do you got Penn State, Notre Dame, or do you got Ohio, or
Mm.
OSU and Texas, excuse me? Who do you got in those two matchups?
I think we're going to see a Big Ten national championship. Penn State looked amazing last week. Um, Notre Dame's offense is kind of underwhelming, but I would say this game tonight, Penn State versus Notre Dame, this might be like a low scoring, gritty, grimy game.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, like Drew Allar is on a mission. He's playing crazy. He's playing great. Then for tomorrow's game, Ohio State is on a mission too. Like they're playing amazing. They're playing great. Texas did not look good last week against Scatterbo. And so I think tomorrow's game is going to be a blowout. This game's going to be a bit close, but
Yeah.
ultimately, I have a Big Ten national championship.
Yeah, I think the only thing I will say is I'm going to fade the public. I think everybody expects this game to be under tonight. I think it's going to sneakily be one of those games where it shouldn't be high scoring, but it is. Again, I might go with the over there. But this game is so incredibly tough tonight. I might even
Yeah.
lean towards Notre Dame, but I think I agree with you. I think we're going to get a Big Ten title game with the Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes. Should be fun. But any last thoughts about the NFL weekend, Amir? Of course, again, this is where good becomes great and great becomes legendary. Again, how excited are you? And any last thoughts?
This is going to be a great playoff.
Yes.
Like people, hey, look, call off work. You can sacrifice money for a couple weeks. Call off work and watch some football.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get the weekends off, that's a plus. But of course, don't take that advice if your house is on the line. Regardless, we'll see you guys next week. Go enjoy some football, and hopefully the Cleveland Browns can keep their pick.